Hello everyone, welcome back to FootballShock. We've got the second episode on the way with the same crew as before. We've got John, Luton Town supporter.
Kieran, Leeds United supporter.
Jay, and lovely big Arsenal fan.
James, big Manchester United fan.
And we've got a new host joining us today, Bradley Dawson. He's another Arsenal fan.
Yep, massive Arsenal fan. Can't wait to get started, lads. Let's go.
So we've got two of these fucking clowns this week.
Do you know, I'm massively surprised that we didn't start the first show with 16 minutes of silence for Leeds, because, you know, where have you lot been?
Well, mate,
You're in time now, mate. Just relax.
They will be over. I think they were the first game last weekend. So we'll start with them. I was the only one. I mean, I didn't get the score right. I don't think anyone would have predicted the scoreline. I did say I think we beat them. I was positive. And we didn't just beat them. It was a fairly even game up until we got the first goal. And after that, I thought we were fantastic. But before I get into that, I want to address what Gabby Abongahor, this absolute idiot, said on the Sport. This guy, he was an average football player. And as a pundit, he's about as useful as a club promoter in 2020. Because he just talks rubbish. Fucking dickhead, man. I'm sick of these pundits stealing a living by talking on. We lost 1-0 to Wolves, and this guy the next day come out and said Bielsa and Leeds are a myth. They've been found out, and if you match them for work rate, you'll beat them on quality. Well, I don't know how he would describe Bamford's two goals, his last two goals, because he scored a hat-trick, by the way, Hattrick Bamford. Those two goals, I don't care if you hate Leeds or whatever, were quality. Can we agree on that? Because those last two goals were absolutely fantastic. I think you've got to accept now that he's had a fantastic start to the season.
No, to be honest, all jokes aside, he's been absolutely brilliant. And I had my doubts because he had a very small spell with Middlesbrough about 3 years ago, and it didn't go quite right for him. So based on those stats, I thought, what? Is he Premier League quality? But under Bielsa,
I mean, that's what a lot of Leeds fans said. And, once we've dealt with, I'm not even going to call him by his name. I'm going to call him Doink because he's a fucking clown, Once we get past what that idiot said, in terms of the game, like I said, the last 40 minutes, we were all over them. And I just want to say, Marcelo Bielsa, in addition to getting Leeds back to the Premier League, why he's made me fall in love with the club again. Because we went through so many years of just absolute rubbish as Leeds United fans. And he has not only got us promoted, but he's imprinted what the values of the club in our football in terms of not taking a backward step, no respect, going for teams' throats. That is Leeds United. We're fucking back. And I cannot wait to see how the rest of this season starts. But it was a fantastic performance against a very informed Villa side. Like I said, I think we're up to 5th or 6th at the minute now, which at the start of the season, if you just told me that, I would have said it was unbelievable. We've been fantastic. And we move on. I think we've got the Scum in November. We've got your tourist club. So that's been a very interesting episode before that game.
You can play all that pretty football, but you probably won't break us down. I mean, that's one thing we are actually good at is defending.
And we've spoken about the Leeds game. I've given my shout out to Doink.
I was going to say, you have.
There's a eulogy.
But the only thing you can say is we were quality. I don't think there's any debate in that, is there?
No, there's no debate in it. Definitely not. I think Bamford especially, what impresses me is his movement as well. His movement is really, really good. And I'll eat humble pie where I need to eat humble pie. He's stepping up to the plate at the moment. But let's see if he can do it over the course of the season. That's going to be the big challenge for him. But his numbers are crazy in terms of his conversion rate from last season to this season. That's for sure.
Well, I know James.
And also credit to Bielsa as well. He has a big history of developing players, and he has developed Bamford into a good striker. And as much as I want to see these guys get relegated, Patrick Bamford and Bielsa deserve credit.
Hold on. Credit. How old is Bielsa, by the way? How old is he?
I mean, he's in his mid-60s.
Well done to Bielsa for taking him to 65 to get a good working team.
James, I'm going to come to you because the next game I think we've got to discuss is United-Chelsea, which Shay actually got bang on.
Spot on.
I'll admit, when you gave that prediction, all of us, I think, were a bit, I wouldn't say baffled, but thought that there would at least be a few goals in it. Even I spoke to some of my mates, they listened to the podcast afterwards as well, and they were like, surely not. And then they all praised you actually afterwards. But I'll admit, my memory's a little hazy on it. I had a few beers on the weekend. From what I do remember, it was a very boring game, to be honest. Both teams set up, I think, just not to lose, really, or that's how the game was approached at the start. I felt we did more than Chelsea over the course of the full 90 minutes. I thought if someone was going to nick the win, it would have been us. But then, arguably, Harry Maguire, was that a penalty? I'll leave that one up to you boys to discuss. Yeah. So I think a draw was probably the fair result, really.
I think Chelsea should have had a penalty though. Chelsea should definitely have had a penalty. That challenge by Maguire and Aspilicueta, it was wrestling. Let's be honest. Kieran, you love your WWE. That was a good old fashioned
WWE setting.
You know what I mean? And you know, I'm sick and tired of the officials protecting these English players as well, because they looked at another challenge on Rashford as well in the box from about 4 or 5 different angles, and it was never a penalty. It was never a penalty. But
it was contact, though, if I remember.
That smacks of
Barely.
inconsistency, though. It just smacks of the inconsistency of these
that's
officials.
the Premier League all over.
But I mean, Shay, yeah, you got that bang on, and I think, to be honest, I mean, we're discussing that game because unfortunately we've got a Man U fan here, but there's not a great deal to discuss, really. It was a dead game.
Well, to be fair, right, I mean, I didn't actually watch the game, but I just saw Alan Shearer's team of the week, right, and he included Chelsea's keeper in it. There were clearly a lot of shots going at him. Someone can clarify that, but
Mendy made a few key saves is probably the better way of putting it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he was peppered, but there were times in the game where I think Rashford, had a good 2 at least good shots, and if Mendy didn't get behind those, then it could have been a very different game. But I think what disappointed me more than anything was we'd come off the back of a good win against Newcastle, huge win against PSG, and I wanted us to go at Chelsea because there's clearly some frailties in the team, and we just didn't seem to go for it. But then again, I mean, you're saying that we've got a poor defence. We go and smash Leipzig 5-0 yesterday.
I was watching, you were 1-0 up, and I think in the last 20 or so minutes, you scored 4. I thought it was like I was listening to a Drake song. It went to 0-100 that quickly.
I think it was the subs, and it showed our depth that we've got now, like the ability to rest on players. Rashford, Bruno came off the bench.
I mean, United will have these terrible run of games where they'll lose games not supposed to, and then just as Ollie's under real pressure, he'll come out with like a string of good results.
He does love a run.
It's the constant theme, but they're not going to get to where they want to go by just having like purple patches like that. And I've said this as well for a long time, that I think in terms of the players in the United squad, they are a sleeping giant. All I think it would take is like a Pochettino to go in there, and I think there'd be a dangerous team, a very dangerous team. And
United are always going to have money and clout. They've always going to have money to spend on players. That money has been misdirected over the last 7 years, I feel. That could be rectified. But at this point, until United, I think, reorganise how the clubs run, they're going to be stuck in this cycle.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's move on, guys, then to the next one. It was Sheffield United versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
That was a 2-1 victory, weren't it?
The reason why I wanted to bring this one up the Liverpool win is fairly standard. Sheffield United, I had a look at the table before we started. With 6 games in, they've got 1 point.
I think the signs were written on the wall though last season, because they finished in the top half. Yeah. They were the lowest scoring team in they found it difficult, very difficult.
Well, for me, from what I've seen,
that's usually what gets teams relegated.
Chris Wilder, he started. The thing is, Sheffield United, he installed a way of playing that was very successful in getting them to the Premier League. But now I feel they have been worked out, and they took, I think, 4 or 5 games to score a goal. Ironically, I think their first goal was against Arsenal, which is typical. But
and McGoldrick as well.
They took 4 or 5 games to score a goal. They've been absolutely shocking. And I think when Leeds played them, we won 1-0. They had a really good chance where Meslier made a great save. But apart from that, you didn't sense any threat from them. Based on their post-lockdown form, I could only see them going down. Shay, what do you think?
You know what? I think they're prime candidates to go down. I think you sort of see how teams are in the first sort of 10 games or so. And most teams that go down, the first 10 games don't look good at all. And they look...
they didn't even beat Fulham.
Absolutely. If they don't start picking up 1 or 2 wins and start getting some form, by the time we hit New Year's, they could be far, far down the table, like 6-7 points adrift from safety. So second season syndrome, it happens a lot. We've seen it with a lot of clubs. I've seen it with Hull in the past, with many other clubs in the past. First season looked great. Second season looked terrible.
James, you got anything to add to that? Because from what I've seen in Sheffield United so far, they're just showing all the classic signs of, as Shay said, second season syndrome, and of a team that just looks kind of devoid of ideas at the minute.
From what I remember of the game, they looked like they put up more fight in it than I think I'd seen in some previous games from them. They definitely seemed like they were harder to break down. I think Chris Wilder was probably acknowledging the fact that they need to be more defensive. But like you're saying, they created very little really to upset Liverpool. I mean, of course, playing away at Liverpool is always going to be a tough game anyway.
Yeah.
I agree. It just doesn't look like good signs for them at all. And
Well, what can I say, mate?
they
They're
look
not
like they
the
could go
biggest team
down.
in Yorkshire, are they?
Listen, mate,
don't get
on
too ahead
Leeds
of yourself.
Yeah, do you know
Calm
what I
down,
mean?
mate. Calm
ain't-
down.
This
you ain't in
Wilder,
your
yeah, he's another absolute clown because he was calling Bamford
Oh, here he
and he said
goes.
Leeds Muppets and all this rubbish. And then Bamford goes and scores again. These idiots just talking nonsense. Keep saying this because you're doing Bielsa's team talk for him. The Doink at Talk Sport did Bielsa's team talk. And Chris Wilder's calling Bamford a Muppet and then he scores a winner against him. You fool. You absolute clown. And with that, I think we'll get into the meat, the BMT of the podcast, because the last game I want to talk about from last week, which feeds into our main topic, is Arsenal-Leicester. I wonder who wants to go first on this.
The result was disappointing, but the performance worried me because I saw something that I've seen a lot recently, and it's a lack of creativity, a lack of a plan B, and also as well, Leicester were very, very good at soaking up the pressure and just hitting us with one chance, basically. And Jamie Vardy, he is world class. I don't care anyone tells me Jamie Vardy is world class, and he's come back to bite us again. But
if his name was Vardinho, we'd be lauding him a lot more. It's just simple. It's because he's
and the thing
English.
is,
So I
what's
don't think
worrying
it's the praise he deserves.
is that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, our main point of attack, he's just not getting the service up
Yeah,
front.
but
Like,
I don't. Yeah, exactly. It's not his fault, is it at all?
It's because your ball boy manager's playing him out on the left. That's why. It makes no sense.
No, it does make sense, and I think James has even said it before in the past. When he can come in on that left and ghost between the right back and the centre backs, it's very dangerous and it's very hard to mark. But the problem at the moment is the plays and the patterns are just, they're a bit too predictable. We didn't move the ball quick enough. But this is a danger of coming in and fixing the defensive side. We always knew that the attacking side was gonna fail, because let's be honest, Arsenal have been shambolic at defending over the last 7-8 years.
5, 6 years. I mean, it goes further than that.
It goes further back than that.
Your record away against the big sides just speaks for that, I think.
And the thing is, Arsenal struggled to keep clean sheets, generally anyway, but especially against the top sides. And Mikel Arteta has made one or two questionable decisions in terms of positioning of players on the pitch, but ultimately, a lot of those players are just not good enough. It's as simple as that.
Let me just lay out my thoughts on that game, because despite you constantly saying, I've got an Arsenal agenda, I'm trolling, that's and the other, there's a lot of truth in what I say. Because I told you when you all gassed about Partey, I said that's a good signing, but you're all gassed about Partey like he's the fucking saviour. I said the window isn't good enough because you didn't get a Warren. You didn't get that number 10 in, and you're seeing why I was right. Because Leicester game plan was very simple. They sat back, soaked up pressure, and hit you on the break. If you had a number 10 in there that could do that job, if you would have got a War, you would have got points out of that game.
Yeah,
and
but I would argue against that though, and I would say that the creativity doesn't always just have to come from a number 10. I don't know why we always have this thing. It's got to be a number 10. If you look at Liverpool, they don't have no number 10 and even Thiago, he hasn't even really played. But last season, they didn't have a number 10. They had the very, very hard working midfield, and they had very, very creative fullbacks. Arteta now, for me, needs to take some risks. He needs to take some shackles off in midfield, because the midfield that we played was very flat. There was no real movement. They played two side to side. And what really annoyed me is Xhaka had double the amount of passes as Partey.
When you signed him, you've got your man, doing fucking music videos about it. And I was like, relax. He hasn't even played in England yet. Just wait to see what he does. Because the only party at the Emirates on Sunday was Jamie Vardy's.
He can't do nothing.
Party.
But
he can't do nothing if no one passes him the ball.
Look, the thing
is
this,
this is what I'm saying though. You don't. It's a good signing, but you're making music videos and holding him as a saviour. He hasn't even played a game.
I ain't making no music videos, man.
Arsenal fans were happy. Arsenal fans were happy because we finally addressed an area which had not been addressed since Patrick Vieira, since 2005, whenever it was. Top point. Hold on a second. Anytime you join a new team, he needs to gel in, get used to the system, and so on. Yeah, and it is up to the team and the manager to play to his strengths. Time will tell. He's a very good signing. Time will tell, and we'll see what happens. But what I will say is this is not an overnight project like how you think it is, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
This project will take minimum 4 windows.
Before we move into Arteta and the Ozil situation, James, you're pretty neutral in terms of this. What did you think of that game and what I just said regarding their creativity and whether they needed a what?
I mean, they've got one of the most creative players in the world, not even in the Premier League squad, don't they? I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, I know we're going to go into that,
we're going to have shortly. But
I get
what did you think of the game on Sunday?
I mean, I didn't watch it, if I'm honest, but from what I've read and I've heard, it seemed like Arsenal were a bit toothless by the sounds of it. And Jamie Vardy, I mean, I pulled up a stat just because I was curious. 11 goals in 12 matches against Arsenal.
Yeah, he's like a Didier
Drogba.
He's like a Didier Drogba.
Well,
before you go there, what I will say though is Arsenal scored a perfectly good goal in that game. You cannot tell me that there was nothing wrong with that goal that they scored.
No, I wouldn't
all bias and agenda out of it, mate. Every pundit, any other football fan has told me that was a perfectly good goal.
Why wasn't it given?
It was blocking the view of the goalie. Allegedly.
Go back and back and watch it, James. Trust me.
What I wanted to say now, we'll get into Arteta and then the Ozil situation. We'll start off with Arteta. What I said at the start of the season was Arsenal would finish around 7th. And I think from what you've seen so far this season, that is looking pretty accurate, I think. Arteta, like I said midweek after the game, Arteta is not the saviour I think you think he is. Like, you compared him to Klopp. When I said Klopp had Ricky Lambert and he's got Aubameyang. You've said this is a project. Arteta is not the man to complete this project that you want of challenging for titles again. I'm sorry, all he's done since he come in is make you harder to break down, which I accept is a marginal improvement, but that's left you toothless.
It's a major improvement if you consider what.
But he's taken away what Arsenal.
There's a structure there. Listen, mate, you got. Hold on. Listen, you got to build from building blocks. All right, you can't just expect over a season, not even a season, half a season, for Arsenal to be blowing teams away and looking far better than what they were.
Whoa. I never said blow teams away. No, but Arsenal are the only team to not score against City so far this season. Arsenal didn't go for them, and that's my point.
No, I think that City thing was more about two managers who were trying to outfox each other. Arsenal had 2 chances in that game, Saka and Aubameyang, that on another day they would have gone in. That game, I think, needs to kind of be taken a bit out of isolation because there's 2 managers who know each other really, really well. The Willian at number 9 was obviously a poor decision. And I just think it was 2 managers that were literally just trying to outthink each other. And on another day, it might have finished 1-0 our way or 1-1. We've been getting slapped at the Etihad and all these other grounds in the past. I mean, for the last 3-4 years, we've held at least 3 goals whenever we've gone to Man City. I mean, that is a major improvement in my eyes. But yes, the attack was toothless. But we've got to wait and build this team. It's going to take some time. There's wholesale changes needed.
No, but what I'm saying
enough
is
from Arteta that shows me he is the right man for
the Liverpool side that Klopp took over was far worse than this Arsenal team. I'm sorry.
It was, but he still made wholesale changes.
You've spent a lot of money on forward players. Pepe, I told you from day one, Pepe is a donkey. I'm not hearing this rubbish, but he's going to come into his own. He is not good enough. He's too lightweight for the Premier League. Every time I see him, he loses the ball. And then he's now had 3 successive managers who don't start him in big games. Like, that has to tell you something. Shay, what do you think? Because I know you're a big Arteta supporter. Where do you think you'll come this season? And what do you think about his tactics so far? Because going forward, you have been disappointing. Can we agree on that?
I'm behind the manager 100%, and I believe we've got the right guy. What I do believe, though, is that the squad needs an overhaul still, and this will take time. This squad at the moment is an FA Cup, Europa League winning team, potentially. It's not a solid top 4 team like a Chelsea or Man City. So we are miles behind. We know that. But when Arteta took over, we are better than what I thought we would be at this point, because I feared the worst when he took over. But he has brought some kind of style of play where we are harder to beat. Yes, we're still losing games, but a lot of players have come a long way. Bukayo Saka's come a long way. Ainsley's come a long way. Kieran Tierney's come a long way. So I think things are going in the right direction, but it will still take time to get things to where they should be. So I'm behind the manager. I'm not saying he's a saviour, but I do think he is part of the process of what we need to help us get forward. Yes, we are still a long way behind, but time will tell.
Can I just ask that? So you're saying like it's maybe like a 4 transfer window project? I
say 3. I say 3 because a lot of players are released from their contracts. Mustafi, Kolasinac, Ozil.
Fair enough, but how long then, if results and things don't pick up, before you start then focusing on Arteta and stop? You know, he's got a blanket for a while, and then you've got to start thinking, well, the manager's just not doing it at this point.
We need to get back into that Champions League, man, because you see these Europa League games in Russia and Azerbaijan. We need to get back into the Champions League. If this year we finish 8th again, and we get bantered across the country like what we normally do, all other countries get bantered at all these different grounds, I'll start asking questions of the manager because we should be doing better than that. But if he gets us into the Champions League and we finish 4th, or we win the Europa League,
you ain't getting Champions League this year. I'll put my balls on the table
time
now
will tell.
and tell you ain't
We'll
getting
see.
Champions League this
If
year.
we win the Europa League and we get the Champions League, that's good for me.
I'll tell you this is another big statement by me because this might be mean to hell, but within 2 years, he will be back handing out the halftime oranges for Pep. 100%. He will be back because ultimately, despite what you keep telling me, this FA Cup win, I think, has glossed over a lot of what you think about Arteta.
Exactly.
He's not good enough. I can see it already. He's made you tougher to break down, yes.
Mate, that's all you keep saying,
managers that make you tougher to break down and a threat going forward. And you're not a threat going forward. And you've got Aubameyang, Lacazette. You've signed Willian, who you keep telling me is a great signing. You've got Martinelli. You've got Nketiah. You've got all these attacking players that I keep hearing are fantastic. And you can't score. Even your wins this season, the only game you've looked good in was against Fulham. And I'm sorry, but Fulham have been poor. So I don't see where all this optimism is still coming from.
You're talking a lot of crap when there's only been 6 games played. You know what I mean?
Well,
talk to me after at least 15 games have been played. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to talk, really, because we've been doing this podcast every week. So we're going to talk. We're going to see.
All right. Let's move on from the saviour of Arsenal to the saviour of Gunnosaurus himself, Ozil.
Yes. Now, I know. I think this is a split opinion with Arsenal fans because I've got Arsenal mates who love Ozil. I've got Arsenal mates who cannot stand him. We'll go to Bradley first because, Bradley, you've always been a staunch defender of Ozil. So just give me your thoughts on what you think of the whole situation.
I think he's been treated quite poorly, to be honest. I think he's been treated really badly. And I also feel like, as a club, we've kind of failed Ozil as well. Because when I look at that player, he's an artist. You cannot tell me that he cannot come into this team and do what he's been doing for the past 7-8 years. He may have lost the pace slightly, but you don't lose the brain and the vision, you know, and the way that he takes away defenders and picks up space. But yeah, I think he's been treated awful. If I look at, the way that he tried to stick up for the Muslims in China, and the way that the club distanced themselves from it was poor. But I also
think that was a sponsor issue, to be honest. I think Chinese networks were saying they weren't going to play Arsenal games.
But regardless, you should. It's terrible that a situation like that has happened. Yeah, back your player, and it's a good chance to highlight some issues in the world as well. But I also think as well that Ozil hasn't helped himself. I mean, his PR team is probably one of the best on the planet, and they've literally been at war with the club for the past years with some of the pictures saying, I'm ready to be picked. Those sort of things don't help either. But yeah, I feel we failed him because James Rodriguez at Everton, he's got the team built around him and he's doing bits. And I just think that Ozil could still do it as well.
I would almost say that it's not Ozil's fault at all. I mean, I think an insane amount of pressure has been put on his shoulders because of how much he's been getting paid. If you're going to get paid that much more than everyone else, people expect you to perform a lot better. And then as soon as you go, suddenly...
But we should have bought the tools around him for him to succeed. Like, I think if he came into this team now, he would do wonders because we've got the defensive player in Partey. We've got what I think is a brilliant signing in Gabriel as well. And Tierney, so the defensive solidity is there now. I think he could do wonders in this squad still.
But why isn't he in your Premier League squad then?
They just want to freeze. They want to freeze him out. They want to freeze him out. They want to get him out of the club.
I think it can't just be football related because
it's not football related at all.
He's not even getting on the bench for a Carabao Cup game. I think one Carabao Cup there had 2 goalies on the bench. So yeah, we did. There's definitely a point being made. Shay, what do you think?
It's a very sad situation. It should have never come to this in the first place. Mesut Ozil should be in the Arsenal squad. He's more than good enough to be in the team. And obviously, there's a personal issue between himself and Mikel Arteta and the board, obviously. We've known for a long time that Arteta doesn't rate Ozil, but to not put him in the Premier League squad is an absolute disgrace. Okay, I know his performances for Arsenal at times hasn't been great, but who have we got that's better than him in his position at the club? We don't have anyone. He should be playing. I'm going to lay out my thoughts
now. Common sense is about to come through. Mesut Ozil isn't fucking good enough. I'm sorry, he's not. This nonsense I've heard about him being this fantastic player. He was good at Real Madrid, but as soon as he
here he goes.
No, hang on.
This is why this is called the football agenda.
I'll let you have your say first. I want to have mine about this because Mesut Ozil split Arsenal fans' opinion, and a lot of them agree with me, I think, and that he's not performed to the level expected of him in England. When you signed him, it was regarded as a statement signing of Arsenal back. We're signing big players again. We're not a selling club anymore. And I'm sorry, I feel with Mesut Ozil, the problem is with him. I mean, he should be in the squad because, like I said, there's no reason to have 2 goalies on the bench. But like I said, I think that's not a football issue. Football passes managers by sometimes, as in the game moves forward without them. You know what I mean? I feel with Ozil, football has passed him by because top managers now like to play a high press. They like forward players to press forward from the front and work hard. And Ozil is not that. Klopp wouldn't have him. Pep wouldn't have him. Arteta clearly doesn't like him. Top managers, the fashion now is to push from the front. And Ozil has always been a luxury player. He's never been the player to do that. He's a fashionable player who's gone out of fashion. Is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I get that to a certain degree.
And in terms of, I know Bradley, you've always liked him, but I had a look before the show in terms of what he's done numbers-wise over Premier League seasons. So I'm not including this season because he hasn't played. So he's played 7 seasons. He's averaged 7 assists in the Premier League a season, and he's scored roughly 5 or 6 goals a season on average over those 7 years. For the player he was brought in to be, that is not good enough. That is poor. You'd expect double those numbers, realistically. You'd expect 10,
how many games
goals
did he actually play in those seasons, Kieran? Because he's been freezed out of the team almost for the past 2.
Sure.
Right, but I've got to say
context is everything, bro.
But if he's not played enough, there's a reason he's not played enough because successive managers have said, I'm not playing you. There's reasons for this. It's like I tell you, top managers now want forward players to push from the front. And Ozil doesn't do that. He's gone out of fashion. He's out of style. I
don't agree with that. The writing's been on the wall for a while because he was told in the summer, I believe, that he can go find a new club.
But who wants him? This is what I'm saying to you. What top club wants him? No one will pay his wages.
I was going to say, clubs will want him. They just won't pay the wages.
Me.
I mean, true,
when that contract's over, clubs will line up for him.
Even if he was like, I'll take 200 grand a week, I still don't think top clubs would pay that for him because he's not a player that is integral to the way these teams play anymore. I genuinely think
I don't believe he'll demand
after
that.
This is done, after this contract's done, he's probably going to go play in Turkey. Or he might go to America or something.
I don't think he'll demand that 200k because I think he's taking that 350 a week as a big FU to the club for the way that they've handled him, if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah, and I also think we should point out the similarity here between this and Bale and Madrid situation.
Oh, yeah.
He's obviously gone back to Spurs on loan. Do we think that's an option for Ozil too?
As an FU to the club, it would work.
The thing is that his contract's up, isn't it, at the end of the year? So
he could go wherever he wants.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, who realistically, this is what I'm saying. He's a fashionable player who's gone out of fashion because what top club do you think he can go to when his contract's done? Like, give me some clubs where you think he could go.
I disagree with you, Kieran.
Yeah, I think he could go to a lot of clubs.
Like, my opinion on Ozil.
Give me some examples.
Let me have my say on Ozil.
Yeah.
For you to say that he's not a good player, or however you started, I suppose your
No, I said he wasn't. The money for the player he was brought in to be, this world-class statement signing, he's not been good enough. That's what I was saying.
But as a player, you know he's good enough. It's the best comparison I can always give, and I always compare these two actually, is Pogba at United a lot of the time. And like you said, they're luxury players. And the best way to describe them is they're those kind of players that need the team built around them so that they don't have to do the grunt work, which is just not part of their game at all. You see Ozil when he's in the German team, absolutely thrived. You see Pogba in the French team, absolutely thrives because they have the players around them that they don't have to do that work. So in terms of you saying he's a fashionable player or whatever, I still think he can do really well. But he just needs to have that right setup around him because, like you're saying, he wouldn't fit into a Liverpool team, like with Klopp and things like that, because he's not going to do that full-time press in every game. I would say, though, when his contract runs out at the end of the year, it'll be, 32, 33. Yeah. I agree. No big team's going to go for him anymore.
Maybe an Inter because
that's what
maybe slower.
Maybe he could go, Juve into leagues a bit slower, and they'd have the wages for him. But in terms of why he's been frozen out, it partly goes back to his performances. I think we can all agree. They had their highs and their lows for sure. No, technically, Ozil's fantastic. Absolutely top draw. Can't deny it. But then you would look at him in some games and he's walking around the pitch. He's not tracking back, and he's just not putting the effort in. And I just always felt that
the truth is that Mikel Arteta is coming now. He wants high pressing. He wants high intensity. Mesut Ozil is not going to do that.
he doesn't fit that. Yeah,
He doesn't fit it. And Mikel Arteta's like, listen, if you're not going to fit it, I'm not going to play you. Simple as.
But
I would
argue against it though, because before lockdown, Ozil was being picked by Arteta. Then the pay cut thing where he refused to take a pay cut happened, and Arsenal actually leaked his name as well. Because how else would the papers have found out that Ozil had refusing to take a pay cut? And when you look back on it, he was justified because he said he was happy to take the pay cut at the time, but only if it meant that jobs wouldn't be lost. And lo and behold, jobs were lost at the club.
I mean, this is kind of related to the Ozil situation as well. I mean, in terms of contracts at Arsenal, obviously news coming out this week that Mustafi was offered a new contract extension and he turned it down. So, I mean, there's a lot of wrong. There's so many things wrong with that. I can't even start to explain. I mean, one, why you offered a new contract to Mustafi, and two, I mean, it's even more embarrassing that Mustafi's turning you down. This fucking clown of a player.
That was offered out in the summer. And the media are very clever because they decide to make it news as soon as he's made a bloody blunder.
I know, mate, but I'm sorry.
But he was informed. They wanted to do it for resale value. Apparently, it was for resale value.
Yeah, but mate, to be honest, no, it doesn't matter when it was. I'm sorry, but there's no resale value in fucking Mustafi. What?
No, there isn't. There isn't. No, I will agree. I will agree. It's embarrassing. I was just trying to put the context on it.
What knowledgeable coach is going to say, do you know what I want for my defence? I want a guy who's liable to make a mistake every other game. That's who I wanted to set back in my defence. No fucking coach is going to do that. There's no resale value. I don't care if he had a few games before the summer break. At no point should Arsenal be offering this guy a contract extension. I'm sorry. I mean, when you played him,
I'm going to be honest. He needs to be sold. He needs to be sold, but he was one of the best defenders, which is, I know it's not saying a lot.
But that just says a lot about you can't state your defence.
But you also said that Arteta had improved us defensively, so.
No, by putting 5 at the back, he's put more numbers back there. It's like when you're playing FIFA against someone is better than you, or like when James plays against me, he puts 5 at the back.
Don't even, mate. You haven't even beaten me once when you come around mine.
Do me a favour. That's another debate. That's another debate.
Tell you what's a good thing to actually talk about with regards to the Mustafi contract, and I suppose links to the Ozil one again, is Arsenal's policy with contracts. It's terrible. Like, if you want resale value, don't leave it until the last year to try and get the guy down on a new contract. Like, Aubameyang's another great example. You were playing with fire with Aubameyang. Like, credit you got it over the line, and he's staying for another 3 years. It's at the end of the day, he could have gone for free.
Didn't you guys also re-sign Phil Jones on like a 5-year contract as well?
Well, mate, like, don't. That's another story.
Everyone knows that Arsenal. Unfortunately, it hurts me to say this, but Arsenal has one of the worst negotiating teams in world football. We cannot negotiate contracts.
Boy and Rodney negotiations, bro. That is what your club does.
Even Bukayo Saka, that deal got longed out. An academy player who's only played for Arsenal.
Should be an easy deal.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, it took weeks to get this kid signed. Honestly, I mean, it's just embarrassing. It's basically a long list of things, over the years, the Luis Suarez 40 million and £1. It's just many things, So.
Yeah, but I would argue though and say that a lot of those people have now left the club, and I would say that
God.
we have the last couple of signings that we've made have been the right signing. But I think we can all agree here, Gabriel looks like a great signing. I think we can also agree Partey will hopefully be a great signing as well. I think Tierney was a really good signing, and Leno was a good signing as well. So the signings have got better.
Yeah, there's steps in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen,
Rome wasn't built in a day.
I know that Kieran loves talking about Arsenal. He's obsessed at this point. But
I love absolutely bantering it.
A couple other things before we move on to the next week's predictions. First of all, the extreme reaction that Liverpool fans have had about Van Dijk's injury. We've briefly discussed it on the WhatsApp group chat. I just want to hear if you guys react the same way if one of your key players got injured, or if they're acting.
Absolutely not. Look, we've all had key players get injured. Unfortunately, it's part of the game. Pickford should have been punished for that. But at the end of the day, Virgil van Dijk is a professional athlete. He plays professional football in the toughest league in the world, and injuries happen. He hasn't died. His life is not a risk. He's out for the rest of the season. It's unfortunate. but these things happen. And we must move on. You know, people acting like he died. Like, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
I 100% agree. The reaction's been so over the top. It's embarrassing, man. Like, it's obviously disappointing. I mean, if it happens to one of Leeds players, of course you'd be annoyed. Like, it's shit. But you can't then just fucking go. I mean, they're writing a book of condolences, aren't they? Like, fuck off, man. Grow up.
Listen, I've seen some horrendous challenges on Arsenal players before, man. You know, I wonder if I'm watching a horror movie sometimes, some of the challenges that I've seen. And where was the energy then from, and especially what annoyed me was the pundits and stuff going over the top about how long Pickford should have been banned for. You know, he should be banned for as long as Van Dijk is out. Fuck off. Honestly, man, it's pathetic.
I think we do need to, look at next week's games. Actually, just before we do, obviously, John's a Luton fan. What Luton last night went 1-0 up. Nottingham Forest had a man sent off, and Luton still managed to bottle the result. Finished 1-1. What did you think of that, JD?
I won't lie to you, it was a joke, right? Last week we had a very, very good performance, and it was a completely new formation as well. We play against Forest, who, you know, are a big team in the Championship, but they've been doing horribly this season. Got a player sent off. The guy who scored the goal scored the own goal as well, and it just all went downhill from there.
I had to ask you, because as a Leeds fan, I don't really pay too much attention to these lower leagues now. Don't really need to pay attention to
You
it anymore.
spent 16 years there. Those lower leagues are your speciality. That's your bread and butter. That's your porridge when you wake up in the morning. Don't disrespect it.
Kieran, consider this year a holiday, all right? Because you'll be back with us next season.
As soon as Bielsa's gone, mate, you're dropping right back down.
Leeds have started very well. You're playing very good football, very exciting football, but it cannot continue. It will come crashing down.
We'll see.
It will.
We'll see. It's not.
It will. It will come crashing down. And when it does, I'll tell you, I told you. It can't continue the whole season.
We are the iceberg. We go on. No.
When it all comes crashing down, I'm gonna send you that Kanye West "All Falls Down" song, man. I'm gonna be jamming out to that, boy. Trust me.
I also wanted to point out, Kieran, that since lockdown, Leeds have won against every team other than City. Fair enough. It was a draw. Liverpool, you know, bit of a good result. Wolves, okay. And, of course, Luton. How'd you feel?
Yeah, your mighty 1-1 draw. Where I don't even want to talk about that game because it was just annoying. To be honest, we got promoted, it's done, but that game still annoys me. This could be a whole nother episode talking about that fucking game. But we need to talk about this week's games coming up. So we'll start with an interesting one I wanted to talk about again was City, Sheffield United. Like we spoke about earlier, Sheffield United have been poor this season. They've started really poorly, but equally, City haven't looked convincing at all. They haven't looked like the City of 2 years ago where they were slapping teams left, right and centre. They can be got at and they look very suspect. So I think it's going to be an interesting one because Sheffield United inevitably will start to pick up points at some point. I think they will eventually get a decent run of form together. I don't think it'll be enough to keep them up, but it's going to be an interesting one. What do you think about this and what's your predictions?
Well, I'm going to say it's strange, right? City obviously are a juggernaut of the Premier League at this point, but they've been getting beat up this season so far. You know, it's like an elephant getting attacked by poachers again and again and again. And Sheffield United, this little ant, and you're about to stamp on them. I reckon it'll be a 5-1, and that is letting Sheffield United have a penalty.
Okay.
I'm going for an away win. I think Sheffield United will try and make it tough in certain regards, but I think City will definitely beat them. I think it will be a 2-1 or a 3-1 to Man City, definitely.
James?
Yeah, I think City got a good result midweek in the Champions League as well. Looked more like the City of old with that kind of performance. Still, like you're saying, they're not as fluid as they have been in previous years, and they do look a little suspect at the back. But Sheffield just don't offer anything going forward at the moment. It'll be a tough game, but I reckon 2-0 City.
Brad?
I think Sheffield are going to get absolutely touched. I think they're going to get absolutely destroyed. I concur what James was saying about the midweek result against Marseille. They looked far better. They looked sharp. They looked on it. De Bruyne looked back to his best as well. I can see a 5-6-0, man. I think I'm going to go with 5-0. I'm going to go 5-0.
Yeah, so I agree with John and Bradley. I think Sheffield United should have the police on hand for this weekend because I think City are going to commit a crime against them. I really, really do. City, like I said, haven't been great, but they have a habit of slapping teams when they get into a rut, into a bad run of form. and Sheffield United don't offer enough going forward to trouble them. So yeah, man, call the police, because I think it's going to be, I agree, a 5. I'm going to go with Bradley. I think it's going to be 5-0. So I think we're pretty universal on that. The second game I want to talk about, hopefully it'll be more even, is Leeds-Leicester. It's a Monday night game. This is going to be a very interesting one, because Leeds, I mean, after that game against Villa, I was on cloud 9. I think it was such a great result, such a great second half performance. Obviously, we're going into this game with confidence, but the problem for us is we've still got Calvin Phillips out, who is so integral to where we play. I think we got away with it against Villa. Villa were poor in the second half. They're especially poor. But it's going to be a tough game. It's a Leicester side who are full of confidence now after, I mean, they beat a mid-table team on Monday, so it's not a big deal. But no, like, let's be real. That was their first win at the Emirates, I think, in like 40-something years. Sorry, the first win at Arsenal in like 40-something years. So it's a very tough one to call this. I think it's going to be a 1-1, and to be honest, I'll be happy with a 1-1. What do you think, John?
Will Vardy be starting, do you reckon?
I think he will. He came on against Arsenal.
Yeah,
so
I think he'll be back to full fitness.
We've got Leeds, who are obviously in very good form, considering this is their first season back, and Leicester, who arguably at this point are in what should be called the Big Seven. I think Leicester are a quality team, and it's going to be hard for Leeds to do anything against them. I'm going to say 2-1 Leicester.
Brad's?
Yeah, I think it could be a tough old night for Leeds. I could see it. I mean, I could see it being a draw, but I could also see Leicester winning it by a couple of goals as well. It's at Leicester, right? I mean,
it's at Ellen Road, but I mean, it doesn't really matter.
I don't think it really matters, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 Leicester result. But I think what you say is right. I think without Calvin Phillips, it's going to be difficult for you. You definitely got away with it against Villa.
Yeah, probably much the same as what Bradley's saying. It's going to be quite an even game. Both teams do well going forward, and I reckon there will be some gaps. I'm thinking probably 2-1 Leicester in this game. But Monday nights can always throw up a bit of a weird result, to be honest.
It's going to be a Shay.
Believe it or not, there's only Leicester to me are the team that they're a good side, but in all honesty, I think you guys will get at them, and I think you can score goals against Leicester. You know, they are a decent side.
Is Solanke still out? Their centre back still out, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's injured for quite a while.
Yeah, he's out for a while.
And in all honesty, I think it will be a 2-1 Leeds win.
Bold. I mean, I said 1-1. I mean, if we can beat Leicester, that would be a massive result.
Yeah, we won't hear the bloody end of it. That's the only problem.
I mean, you wouldn't hear it. And then the last game we'll look at is it's the biggest game of the weekend. It's a game that when we were kids was the biggest game of the season. Arsenal United. What a game this is going to be. I mean, we'll start with you, James. What do you think?
Honestly, everything's set up for us right now to go and lose. That's just how I feel about it. We start to put a good run together. You're starting to think, United are turning the corner. Huge win midweek. And it's just like United, I feel, right now, to just not have that consistency. And Arsenal haven't won against a Big Six team in 29 games. And we'll be that one team that just helps them, not make it to 30 or something like that. I'm not confident about it.
What do you reckon?
I think 2-1 Arsenal. I hate to say it, but it's just... I want to be positive. Yeah. I just have this funny feeling.
The thing is with this game, right? Why I think, I mean, as a neutral, I mean, I can't stand both teams, but as a neutral looking at it, it's difficult because United have a habit of going under a decent run under Ollie and then losing a few more games and going back on a decent run. And because you've had a few good results, I see where you're coming from. But equally, you cannot back Arsenal to win this game because they haven't won away against another top six club since 2015. Therefore, and especially Old Trafford, they haven't won at Old Trafford in how many years? I couldn't tell you.
But that's exactly why I think it's going to happen. I mean, that's exactly why I think it's going to happen.
It's an interesting one, and I think Arteta will go 5 at the back because of the threat United pose going forward. But does that mean they won't score? I'm going to say 1-1. I think it's going to be a draw. I can't see really any team playing particularly well in this. I just think it's going to be a standard 1-1. Shay, what do you think?
2 things I want to mention. So that stat about the 29, whatever you call it, yeah, it is a bad stat. But that's not a stat that I really look at too much. We basically gone to Wembley on the road. We've gone to Wembley.
Yeah, come on, bro. Even I would say that's
we've gone to Wembley. Chelsea, bro. That stat is nonsense. But for example, the last two seasons ago against Tottenham, Aubameyang has a last minute penalty. It gets saved. He scores that, the runs over. So I'm not worried about that.
But he didn't.
That's fine. But City and Chelsea, Wembley, both beaten. So that's fine. So very important. Off topic. Old Trafford as an Arsenal fan has never had a happy hunting ground. Okay, yes, he won the league there, yes. But even when we had Henry and those guys, it was always a big hurdle for us. And it was always a tough game going to Old Trafford. This time will be different as well. You know, obviously, the Man United are not as good as they were, and we aren't either. But I believe it will be a very, very tough game. Pay me to say it, but I think the run will go on. I'll go for a 1-0 Man United victory, unfortunately. I think they'll
Interesting.
beat us.
Brad.
I hate to say it, but I think they'll beat us.
Brad,
I
what's your
think
thoughts?
I think it's a banana skin for both managers, to be honest. And I actually think both managers need to win. So I also think as well that Mikel Arteta needs to take some risks. I'm looking at the squad that he's put out today, and it's no real first team members really, other than Xhaka. Leno's not even playing. So I do think he's maybe going to go for it. I'm going to be positive here. I think the run's going to end, and I'm going to go with a 1-0 Arsenal.
It's bold. Continue your record there. We'll finish with you, John, because I think we'll wrap it up after that. I think that's the last game I think we've got to discuss. So, John, what's your thoughts?
Bradley makes a good point. The managers both got something to prove right now. I do think United have a bit more quality to the team right now, especially with the form they're on. I'm going to say 1-0 United. Probably going to be one of the most boring games of the season. But yeah, no, I think 1-0 United. Before we do wrap up though, Kieran, I do want to quickly go through our new feature, Player of the Week. I'm going to throw the easy one out there first. I think you'll agree with me. It's got to be Hattrick Bamford.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Hattrick.
I think you can universally say that. I mean, that second goal especially was, it was saucy.
To be honest, I think his third was the best. I mean, his third, he's got, I think, 3 or 4 players around him, and he's just scooped it with no backlift in the corner. I'm sorry.
I think the third was bad because of that, personally. I think it was awful defending more than it was good attacking.
Yeah, I think so. I think Tyrone Mings was poor there. He was poor.
I mean, it is, but I'm sorry. But if Messi does that, it will be absolutely lauded. That was a fantastic. And that's why, sorry for my little rant at the start of the show about Doink on Talk Sport, but man said we ain't got enough quality, and then Bamford goes and does that. You just look like an idiot after that. Shay, do you disagree with that?
For me, it's basically unanimous. Patrick Bamford to basically do it.
Bamford.
Well, you know what? To basically do it away from home against a Villa side with players like Grealish, a team that beat Liverpool 7-2 only 2-3 weeks before that. Very, very good, very composed performance from him. He's looking very confident. I think if he keeps it up, he's knocking on Southgate's door. He has to be on Southgate's radar if he keeps up this. He does
have to keep up because there's a lot of competition for that spot. I think that's very wrap up, JD.
Yeah, I think you're right. Everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where you'll find a whole team of the week that we'll put up in the next couple of days. For the time being, stay tuned, and we will speak to you next week. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Pleasure. Thanks for watching.